All right, last time we finished Parshat Truma, but we didn't really finish the pictures that are in the in Truma. So, and the computer didn't work and the pictures didn't work. So here, let's at least get a little one thing clear. Here we have the last thing that's spoken about in Parshat Truma. If you remember, was there we talked about the things that they had to bring to the Beit HaMikdash. There was the Mishkan in the desert. So we explained the menorah, and we explained the face bread table, right? We explained that pretty well, and the golden altar we're going to explain at the end of this week's Torah portion. So we didn't get to that yet. And we explained also the ark. Remember, we explained the ark with with the two faces on it. We explained that. We explained sort of where it is and where the rings are, but we did not explain the outer altar. The outer altar was where we sort of explained it. We didn't really get into it, and I don't think that it was. We got the picture anyway. So here we have a picture of the outer altar. Now the outer altar looked like this, but there was a big ramp that went up to it. Let's see, we got the ramp. See, there was a big ramp that went up to it. Also, here's our ramp. Let's see, maybe I can look at. Okay, there's a big ramp. The ramp was 21 amos long. Here, 21 amos long, which means about 30 feet long. And the altar was 10 amos high, which is about 15 amos, 15 feet. 15 feet. And in the middle of this altar, let's go back to the altar. We got a little bit bigger picture over here. Here we have the altar. Here we go. So the altar, this altar was outside of the Ohel Moed, of the what is a tent of meeting, it's called, which the outer part of it had the candelabra in it, the seven sticked candelabra and the showbread, and the golden altar, which we'll talk about in the end of this. But this was outside of the whole thing. This was in the sort of in the courtyard. Now, in the Holy Temple, this is not the Holy Temple. In the Holy Temple, this was protruded over here, and it was also much bigger, but this was protruded so they could walk around. The Kohanim could walk around, but here it isn't. So this is called the Michbar, and this is called the Reshet. It was right in the middle. There are certain offerings that the blood has to be sprinkled above this, and certain offerings that the blood has to be sprinkled below. So this divided between the two of them. This was in the outer altar, and there were also rings here, and there were poles that were put through the rings because it was carried. This whole thing was portable. And they would carry this in the desert. We'll see how they carried it later on when we get to Parshas Nasai in this, how they carried it. And then there were the four corners of the altar, and then there was the fire was burning in the center. This is where they would burn up the sacrifices, and they would bring the sacrifices. These are some of the vessels that were used. This is all talking what we learned last week. But these are just pictures of them. This is the Ya'an, this is the Mizrak. This is for spilling the blood, because they would take the blood and they would pour it. This is the Machte and the Tzinorot. And then the Mazleg. This is only to take off the ashes, things like that from the temple. And this is the picture we just showed you, right? The ramp, the Kohen would go up to the ramp and he would throw the offering from here. He wouldn't go actually throw the offering. And sometimes the Kohen would go up on the top when it was, then he would sprinkle the blood. When the offerings were thrown from here on. Oh, now we're going to go this week's Torah portion. All right. So let us go to this week's Torah portion. Oh, okay, very good. Let's see if we can do this. Okay, let's stop here. Very good. And we'll start here. Well, so far, so good. Huh? Okay, let's see how this works. Now God says to Moses, Ata, you, Moses, Tetzaveh et Bnei Israel, command the Jewish people, V'yichu elechem, they should bring to you Shemen Zayat, oil from a olive oil, Zach, that's pure olive oil. Now, usually olive oil has some sediments in it or something, but not this. Pure olive oil. Katit lamaor, that is crushed up for the illuminator. Not just crushed up to make light, but it's crushed up for the source of light, or for the shiner. There's or is the light, more is the shine. Lalot ner tamid, to make the lights of the menorah constant. Now remember, we talked about the menorah. We talked about that, right? The menorah. So this is going up constant. We don't have to have a picture of that, do we? Do we have to have a picture of that? No, I don't think so. But here, let's get a picture anyway, just to make it more realistic. Can we do it? No, we can't. I don't want to. Okay, sorry. Here we go. Back to the picture. Okay, so the question is that we had a few questions here. Why did the Jewish people have to bring the oil to Moses, to Moshe? Moshe didn't light the candles. Here it says, let's go to the next sentence. It says, Ba'oel Moed, in the tent of meeting, Michutz Leparochet, on the outer part, the outer 2/3 of the tent of meeting. That's where the candelabra was with the showbread, the face bread, and the incense. Asher alo edut, and which is in front of the ark. Yaroch oto Aaron. Aaron, he's the one that should arrange it and light it, and his sons. Me'erev ad boker, from the evening to the morning. Lifnei Hashem, in front of God. Chukot olam, a statute forever for your generations. Me'et ben Israel, from the Jewish people. Okay, so we have a lot of contradictions. Number one, here he said you have to light it all the time, and here it says only from the evening until the morning. Here, let's go back. First sentence. Moses, you command the Jewish people, and they should bring to you this pure oil, crushed up for the light, for the menorah. Lalot ner tamid, that there should be a fire going all the time. So the fire must be going all the time, right? All the time means all the time, constantly. Well, here it says the opposite. Here it says it should be lit from the evening until the morning in front of God. And not only that, who does the lighting? Moses, he's the one over here that says you should get the Jewish people should take the oil to you, right? And that it should be in order to make fire all the time. So you figure, well, Moses gets the oil, and obviously it's talking to Moses. Moses has to light the candles, right? Wrong. Here we see that it's not so. That Moses gives the oil to Aaron, and that Aaron and his sons, they light the candles from, not constantly, but from evening until the morning. And there's the whole night it goes, but in the daytime, not. In front of God. It's a eternal covenant from the Jewish people. So why did the Jewish people have to bring this oil to Moses? Right? Why did they bring Moses? He didn't light it. He gave it to them. Why does it say by Moses you have to light it? It has to be going all the time. And here it says just from the evening until the morning. Excuse me. Well, we have a Hasidic answer. This question is asked by the Rebbe also. So let's see what this. Now, also, this has really nothing to do with this week's Torah portion, because this week's Torah portion maybe it should have been last week's Torah portion when it talks about the candelabra that was spoken about, right? That was the second thing spoken about in last week's Torah portion about the vessels. So why isn't it mentioned next week? Okay, we'll talk about that also. Then it goes into the commandment of making these different garments. Hakrev lecha Aaron achicha and ban avito tov ben Yisrael chanuli Aaron not of Elazar v'itamar not of the Avihu. Those are the four sons of Aaron, and it says Vasita big day kodesh. You have to make holy garments for Aaron achicha, for Aaron your brother, the kavod for glory and for honor and for glory. All right, we'll go further in this, but let's understand what's going on here now. Here's this week's Torah portion. It starts off with a commandment. The whole entire Torah portion talks about the garments of Aaron and his sons, except right at the very end, it talks about the incense table, the incense altar, the golden altar that's in the inside. But except for that, it's talking about the garments. Good. But here in the beginning, it sticks this commandment that has absolutely nothing to do with garments and has nothing to do with the incense altar either. All of a sudden, it's this commandment that they should crush up oil and they should bring it to you to make a light constantly. And then it says in order that Aaron should light it from the morning until the evening. So first of all, what's the whole thing of this oil doing here? And why do they have to bring it to Moses? And why does it here say constantly? And here it says for evening. And what's it got to do with the garments? So let's have a look. Okay. So first of all, let's look and see what does it mean. You should take shemen atatatzavet, shemen zayitzach. What does it mean? Pure olive oil. So it says bli shmorim, olive oil that has no dregs in it, no little particles. Like it's learned in the Mishnah in Menachot. Menachot is one of the tractates of the Mishnah. Megargro barosha zayit. It says that they just would squeeze the olive a little tiny bit, and the first drop that would come out. Right, that's what we learned about in the Sikha, if you remember for today. Katit, what does it mean crushed up? The zaitim, these olives, haya katush, they were crushed up in a crusher. Ve'eno tochen barichayim, but you don't grind them up. You just put a press on them and let the press weigh down. In order that there should not be any dregs, at least for this first oil. This first oil is just, the olives are just pressed, and the first oil that comes out of it, so there's no meat from the olives mixed in. You take the first drop that comes out, that's the oil that you want, Moses. As machnisan l'rechaim, then afterwards, you take these olives out, and you put them into a wine press and you grind them. Hashem and Hasheni, and the second oil that comes out after you start to grind it. Of course, there's all sorts of strainers and everything, but nevertheless, the second oil that comes out, pasal lomanochas, it is menorah. It is no good for the candelabra. But kosher lomanochas, but it is good. You can use it for bread offerings. With the bread offerings, you have to put also oil, like it says, katit lemor, below katit lemanachot. Like it says, it is crushed up for the this first oil is crushed up. It's like squeezed out for the light, and it doesn't say that it's squeezed out for the offerings. La'alot ner tamid, to light it constantly. Madlik ajete shelavet olav eleh. So they just have to touch the match or whatever to the wick. They just have to touch it until you see that it's caught on there, it's going up on its own, then you leave it alone. So it says that the light has to go up, the fire has to go up constantly, tamid. What does that mean, tamid? Here it says just for the morning to the evening. Remember, we learned that before? It just says me'erev ad boker. So what does it mean that the fire has to be there tamid all the time? So it says, call Layla, the whole entire night, this is called tamid. Why is it called tamid? Because every single night they would light it. So that's called constant. Kamo sha'ata omer, like you say, olat tamid. Like it says that there's the constant offering that the Jews would offer. When would they offer it? They wouldn't offer it constantly all the time, right? Take it and cut it up into little pieces, this offering, and constantly offer it. No, they would offer one in the morning and one before it got night. The Ein Oela Miyom Leom. They would only make it every day. So that's called tamid. Constantly means not every single second, but it means every single day. Once a day, they would. The Cohen also b'minchas chavitin. It says tamid, and it's only machzis b'boker, 1/2 in the morning, 1/2 in the evening. But the tamid here that's talked about in lechem apanim, when it says the lechem apanim, there it's really there all the time. It's from Shabbos to Shabbos. We learned about the face bread, right? The face bread that we learned about before. Well, that is actually their tamid. It's always there the whole entire week. And then it's changed on Shabbat, but the table is never empty on its own. It's always got the bread on it, tamid all the time. So sometimes the word tamid means just like once a day, every day, once a day. But sometimes the word tamid really means constantly, all the time. Okay, the Ramban deals with this. He addresses the question, why does it say, Ata tetzaveh? Why does it say, you, Moses, you command the Jewish people? Why should it should be Aaron is commanding the Jewish people to bring oil? So it says the reason is, Ba'avur she'omar b'mishkan, because it says in the Mishkan, in the tabernacle, Tamid, Asita. All the time it says, Moses, you do it, you do it. Moses is the one that receives the commandments, and Moses is the one that gives the commandments. So it says, therefore you, now from now, God is saying, okay, I'm not going to give you the commandment. Moses, you do the commandments. You do the commandments. You command them that they should bring to you this pure oil. Because there was no way, now he's being practical. There's no way to make this oil in the desert. There had to be all sorts of strainers. And it says that the different heads of the tribes, they're the ones that brought it. So Moses, he had to sort of organize this whole thing so that it would work properly. But Tom, why does it say take it to you? They should bring it to you. Who? Because Moses would examine it. He would check it out to see if it was really pure and it was crushed properly. So therefore, the Ramban is saying a very not spiritual reason, namely that they would bring, everything in the Holy Temple was spiritual, but this was a very practical reason. They would bring it to Moses, and Moses, he would check it out. Moses was very, very, very exacting in the commandments, and he would see if there's a little speck of any foreign substance in there. Moses would, he was the one that would check it and give it, inspect it. Became Sabbath B'nai Yisrael, later on also the same thing, where it says they should bring to you okay. Okay, this oil has to be brought from the Jewish people. The Jewish people, they should bring to you the oil from the Jewish people, whatever is brought in their hand, and whatever they happen to have on hand. Like it says, Me'et kol isha sheyidbenu libo. This was part of the free will offerings that everybody gave their part in the Holy Temple. Like it says, Ata karev elecha et Aaron achicha. That's for Moses. He had to do all of the bringing, etc. So he had to inspire all the Jewish people to bring to him. And he stresses it again, that you have to light, this light has to go up all the time. What does it mean constantly? Called Laila V'Laila. Every night is called constant. Like it says in etc. Olas Tamid, just like what Rashi said. Here's an interesting one from the Baal HaTurim. In this Torah portion, Parshas Tetzav, it's the only portion in the Torah after Moses was born, of course. Moses was born in the beginning of the book of Exodus, right? So in the book of Exodus, that's when we're introduced to Moses the first time. Moses was not born in the book of Genesis. The book of Genesis ends up with the death of Yosef, and all the brothers went down to Egypt. All the Jews went down to Egypt, and the death of Yosef there in Egypt. But now we're talking about Moses. So every Torah portion from the beginning of the book of Exodus on has Moses' name. Moses is he's the star. He gets everything except for this Torah portion. This Torah portion, Moses' name is not mentioned. The only Torah portion that's not. The Lubavitcher Rebbe says here, it's higher than Moses' name because God said, Ata, you. God is speaking directly to Moses. Ata, you command the Jewish people. In any case, Moses' name is not mentioned here, which is not the case in the whole rest of the Chumash. But the second that Moses was born, he's not mentioned. There's not any portion of the Torah that Moses' name is not read, right? Except there is in Mishnah Torah, there is in the book of Deuteronomy, there's a few, etc. So the reason is what's the reason? Why is Moses' name not mentioned over here? The reason is because, listen, in the book of Deuteronomy, Moses' name is not mentioned because Moses said the whole book of Deuteronomy himself. It came from Moses himself. In other words, it doesn't say in the book of Deuteronomy that God said to Moshe, "Vayadaber Hashem al Moshe lemor." God spoke to Moshe saying, the whole book of Deuteronomy, Moses spoke for himself. And it says that the Shekhinah medaberes mitoch garon shel Moshe, that God's presence was speaking through Moses. And this set the stage for the Talmud and everything, that there would be great men, that the word of God would come through them. But everybody says there's the 5 books of Moses, and the 5th one was Moses saying himself. So there's sometimes where Moses' name is not mentioned in the last book, but that's because the whole thing is Moses. It's all Moses speaking. In any case, why is it that in this week's Torah portion, Moses' name is not mentioned? So the reason is because next week, Moses makes this statement to God, and he says, listen, God, if you want to wipe the Jewish people out, this is after the sin of the golden calf. God says, I'll wipe all the Jewish people. So Moses says to God, if you want to wipe them out, then wipe me out from your book. God said, no, you don't understand, Moses. I'll make a whole new nation from you. You'll be a new nation. I'll make it from you, and then you won't have so much trouble. And Moses says, if you're thinking about doing that, God, then wipe me out from your book. Wipe me out from the whole book. So, wipe me out from the book that you're writing. And it says that a person, a tzaddik, that he curses someone, even if it came accidentally, or if it came with a condition, right? It came with a condition. But it comes, and it's fulfilled. So therefore, he says, so where was it fulfilled? Over here, Moses said, wipe me out. And even though the fact is God did save the Jewish people, so there was no reason for him to wipe Moses out. He said it on a condition. If you're going to wipe out the Jews, then wipe me out too. So God said, okay, I won't wipe out the Jews. But nevertheless, Moses, he said, those words came out of his mouth, wipe me out of your book, even though that it was on a condition. If you're going to wipe out the Jews, wipe me out. And God didn't wipe out the Jews. But nevertheless, because he said it, so therefore it was fulfilled. And we're in this week's Torah portion. Because of Tzav, the menorah, here is written the commandment of the menorah. And also B'tamid, Tzav is B'nai Israel, because both of them are all the time. The commandment of the tummy, the constant offering, that's going to be later on. That won't be here. But nevertheless, this commandment of the lighting of the candles, this is constant. Because and there is chesron and kis, and both of them also there is a loss to the Kohanim because they have to buy this every day. Therefore, it says Zorez Bam. Therefore, it's necessary for God to push them. In other words, these are offerings, the Tamid, and also it's an Ola. The whole thing is burned up. And also here they have to give money for the oil, and they don't get anything back. They don't eat it. They can't use it. Therefore, he has to say in a commandment, Ata Tetzaveh. Tetzaveh is also the gematria of Nashim. Nashim Tzaveh. Nashim, the women. The Tetzaveh means Nashim Tziva. The women. This is it. The lighting of the candles is going to be by the woman. It's going to be continued constantly by women every Shabbat. That's in the place of the Holy Temple. Therefore, God says, take this light, the oil to you. Says, you take it to you for yourself. But God says, but me personally, I don't need any light. I don't need the light. This is only for you. It says, Ner Tamid. Ner Tamid is the gematria, the numerical value. If you count up all the letters, it comes out Bishabbat, on Shabbat. A constant light, this is on Shabbat. Okay, there's another, the Lubavitcher Rebbe explains that also Atat Tzaveh, the word Tzaveh means a connection. Tzavta v'chibur, Tzevet. Atat Tzavet ben Israel, you, Moses, you're the ones that connect, you are the one that connects the Jewish people to God. You give them this godly feeling, the feeling of faith, the feeling of they're willing to be self-sacrificing. This is your job, Moses. This is what you do. Here's a beautiful one from the Kli Yakar, but we really don't have that much time to do it all. Yesh Meforshim, some people say that this is Musar, this is giving a reproof to those people who are mistaken. Hanodnim, Hanodnim, Hachilek, Hamuvchar min Mamonon, L'tzorech Chomer Lechol V'shtod. What does it say? You should take the best of the oil and use it for the holy temple. It says this is also coming as a reproof to those people who give their best of their money for themselves. For them, they want to make a nice house, they want to make nice clothes, they want to have nice food. The Yeter, Tanugim, and other pleasures. The Kol Malacha Nivzeh v'nimas ota yiten l'tzorech ner elokim. And if they have, it used to be in the time, how long has electricity been around? It's been around for like 100 years, 150 years. How long has it been electricity around? Not that long, electricity. So there's been electricity 150 years, something like that. Before that, it used to be gas lights, and there used to be lights, and we're talking about a long time. So it says some people, they bring light for the holy temple. So people say, and what would they bring? They would all, not for the holy temple, I'm sorry, for the synagogue. They would bring lights to the synagogue. They would bring oil for the lights in the synagogue, and that they would do from the worst type of oil that they had, and the last money that there was just sort of left over, they would bring. So, and not only that, there's another type of a light also. Ner Hashem Nishmas Adam. The light of God is the soul of man. So, in other words, it says the best oil you're supposed to give to the holy temple. It says, what is the soul of man? The soul of man, that's the light of God. In other words, for godly things. So what do people do usually? For nice clothes, if they want to have nice clothes and they have a nice house, it's a wonderful thing to have. But what's left over, the second, number two, number three, how do you say? The extras, that they give to God. They give to charity, they give to for the synagogue. They put also the energy, the best energy, right? They put into their business, they put into this. Well, what about that? You're supposed to give your best, the first, to the light of God. What's the light of God? Is the soul. Asher ora nitzchi, that the light of the soul is eternal. So why pour your money, all of your money, into secondary things first? And the first things, the most important, that you give the second money. That should be the other way around. Like it says, La'los ner tamid, v'asheni yiten lamanachos she'em meichel hakohanim. It says the best people give for themselves. And then after that, kach yiten rishon lamor ner elokim neshamas adam, asher ora nitzchi, like it says, La'los ner tamid. And the rest you can give to the others, to the kohanim, etc. But first of all, you have to deal with your own soul and learn Torah and do commandments, etc. And this is a hint to those people who understand. Okay, so it says light it. Where do we say you light it? Outside. It has to be lit all the time. Let's just do very, very briefly. This now it goes to the main subject of this week's Torah portion. And now take Aaron, your brother, and his sons with him. Who are his sons? To be Kohanim for me. Nadav, Avihu, Elazar, V'itamar. Those are the four sons of Aaron, Nadav and Avihu. It ends up that the first day that they opened up the Holy Temple, they went rushing in and they died. We'll learn about that, but not in this week's part. This is going to be in another couple of months. We'll learn this about Nadav and Avihu, what they did in Parsha Shemini. Okay, so it says, it says, now take to you after you finish the Malechas of Mishkan, after you finish building the Mishkan. So let's go quickly into these and we'll go into it in more detail next time. Vasita Bigdei Kodesh, you have to make holy garments for Aaron, your brother, l'kavod u'latiforet, for honor, for glory, and for splendor. Now, some people say that these garments that were made were, just one second. These garments that were made are to fix up the garments of Adam. Adam, it says when he, and so I'm trying to get in. When he ate from the tree, it said that God added garments to him. He added garments. He put on, it says, before that they weren't. Adam and his wife were naked and they weren't embarrassed. And afterwards, God gave them garments. So these garments were in order to, I understand. The other, well, the garments were in order to have a certain amount of shame because they had eaten from the tree. So let's see, these are the garments. What are the garments? Let's have a look. Speaking to the Chachmei Lev, and make the garments of Aaron, the Kadsho Kohanim. We're going to have to go back to this. And what are the garments? Let's just go quickly. These are the garments that you should make. Choshen, ephod, me'il, katonet, tashbeitz, mitznefet, avnet. Those are the garments. What are they? A choshen and an ephod, a meal and a katonet. Let's see what these garments are. Let me see if I can get this done here. There. One moment. I have pictures. Oh, is it working? Yes, yes. Here, this is the ephod. This is the ephod. The Cohen would put this on, tie it in the back. This whole upper area, this is called the cheshav ephod, the upper part of the ephod. And this was tied. Now we're going to see what all these things were for. But this is the ephod that the Cohen would wear when he went in. Now there were these like chains of gold that were on the top. And that was called the sharsharot zahav. Afterwards, they would put in the top of this, they would put this with the breastplate. This is the choshen. This is what's called the choshen. And in here, they would put the name of God. There was a parchment with the name of God they would put in here. Okay, where would this go? This would go here. See? Can I turn this around? Can I turn it around? I don't know. Let's see. And I thought I could. No, I don't know if I can or not. What are we going to do? Okay. Probably there is some way of moving it around, but I don't know what it is. Anyway, this Choshen Mishpat was put, here we got the picture. It was put over here. Unfortunately, this thing is turned up sideways. It's like this. If we could just turn it around somewhere, but I can't. I mean, I probably can, but I don't know how. Nah. No. Yeah. Okay. All right. Well, let's just have to use your imagination or lay down on your left side or whatever. And here it is. This is the Choshen. And there's stones, different stones for each one of the 12 tribes are in it. And they would light up and tell the Cohen future events that were going to happen. There's a whole procedure, how it had to be done. But nevertheless, this is the Choshen. If you move it over to the side, why is it moving? Okay, there it is. So this is what it looks like. This is what that Choshen. Oh, look at this. Wow, I can turn the whole thing around. Hey, maybe I can turn this one around. 1 second, 1 minute. Oh, there it is. Hey, I did it. Wonderful. See, this is amazing. Okay, so this is what the Cohen would wear, right? This is what the Cohen would wear. He would wear this, the Cohen Gadol, the big Cohen would wear this when he went in to serve, but not in the Holy of Holies. He used this in his day-to-day service. When he went into the Holy of Holies and Yom Kippur, he would wear Big Day Bad. He would wear white silk, regular white silk, simple garments. He would take all these garments off. Okay, we're going to learn about these stones, at the 4 lines of stones, what they were. But these are the tribes of Israel. See, Reuven, Shimon, Levi, Yehuda, Yisachar, Zvulun, Dan, Naphtali, Gad, Asher, Yosef, and Benjamin. And then it was also written Shivtei Yud Hey was written here also. And over here was written Avraham and Yitzchak, Yaakov, and Adam, the first man. Oh, sorry. No, it's not so. I'm sorry. Avram, Yitzchak, and Yaakov. The name of the stone, I'm sorry. The name of the stone was Odem, not Adam. Adam is not written. Even though the Adam is buried together with Avram, Yitzchak, and Yaakov in Hebron. But it's a mistake. The name of the stone is called Odem. And Pita, Ubereket. Right? Those are the first stones. We'll talk about what those stones are, and we'll get to that tomorrow. Anyway, this is what's called the Choshen. Choshen. And these are the right, this is the ephod. This whole thing is called the ephod, and this is called the Choshen, which was put into the ephod. And we'll learn about the other. This, for instance, is a plate of gold that the Cohen would wear on his forehead. It would tie it on his forehead, right? And this was called the tzitz, Nezer Kodesh. And we'll learn about all these things, God willing, tomorrow in more detail. Wonderful. So have a good day. And we'll see you tomorrow, 8:15, God willing.